Okay, so in the last video we talked about what a radicand was. The radicand is what's under the square root symbol. Now that is a square root symbol. Later on we're going to talk about it as a radical symbol. And you'll see the difference later on. But for our purposes right now, it is a square root symbol. So what happens if the part underneath, this part underneath, is negative? Well, let's say you have the square root of negative 16. So you might be thinking, oh, well, 4 times 4 is 16, so maybe if I put a negative in front of it, that will work. But it won't. Because if you take negative 4 and you square it, that's going to be negative 4 times negative 4, and that gets you a positive 16, not a negative 16. Okay? So the point is that we cannot take the square root of a negative number. Okay? It is not, we're going to say it is not real. So later on in this chapter, I think at the very end, we'll talk about this situation more. But when we have the square root of a negative number, that answer, you know, the simplification, it doesn't represent a real number. So it is, we just put it is not real. So you might be thinking, oh, well, if it's not a real number, is it a fake number? Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Okay, so for now, you just say it's not real. All right, so here's some examples. So it says simplify the square root of negative 169. Okay, you're just going to write a not real. Because we said, you know, if you're taking the square root, you can't take the square root of a negative number. Okay? All right, B. But this time the radicand's positive. The radicand's 81. So you can take the square root of 81. Square root of 81 is 9. But then you have a negative or an opposite sign in front of it. So your answer is going to be negative 9 in this case. That's okay. That we can do. Okay? So what might be helpful right now is if I give you a list of what we call perfect squares. So this video is a little short, so I'll put these in here. First perfect square is 1, because 1 times 1 is 1. Next one is 4, because 2 times 2 is 4. Then 9, 3 times 3, 16, that's 4 times 4, 25, 36, 49, 64. I'm writing these kind of fast, but you know, you could go through these and find them all. And then, let's see, 64 is 8 times 8. 81 is 9 times 9. 100 is 10 times 10. 121, now that's 11 squared. 144, that's 12 squared. That's called a gross. That's in business. They used to use that. 169, by the way, is 13 squared. 196 is 14 squared. And then 225, we had that one on the last video, is 15 squared. And that's as many as I know. After that, get a calculator or something. Okay, but it's nice to be familiar with those numbers, okay? So when my son played football, one year he was 16, and one year he was 81. I was like, oh, they're perfect squares. Problem with having a math teacher for a mom. Okay,